Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I am Tanika, and today we're going to be finishing up the first batch of Love is Blind. So I'm covering episodes 5 and 6 in this episode. That's what we're going to be doing. But just before we get into that, just one quick announcement. Patreon is up and running and going. So if you want to join the Patreon, we're currently covering Jersey Shore season 1 on the second tier. And we are covering, or just finished covering, this month's Ashley Madison documentary on the third tier. Next month, we'll be doing, I believe, the Man with 1,000 Kids documentary for the month of March. So that's what we're going to be doing over there. So of course, if you want to join, you can go down to the show notes and you can find the link to join. And do have another social media account, Blue Sky. The link for that is now officially on, or in, I should say, the show notes. So you can hop over there and join Blue Sky. And yes, I'll be updating the website with that information for Blue Sky. So that's basically that. For the Next Take listeners, if you actually listen to, us over there, on the website, on my website currently, links to the new Next Take website. So if you want to go take a look over there on that new website, you can go on to my website, which is just down in the show notes, and you can find the tab for Next Take Podcast, which will take you to the link for the new website. And there on that website, you can give your ideas for things that you would like me and Michael to cover. So that's over there. Otherwise, don't think there's anything else to really stay on top of the episode. What I will say, though, is Love is Blind, the next batch of episodes, 7, 8, and 9, will be in one episode, so that might take a little bit for me to get to, but I will hopefully get that out at the latest Friday by the time the new drop comes. So that's the latest. I'm working on it currently. So we're getting there. But that will be in one full episode. And then I'll get you OG and Last Resort. I'm hoping with the slowdown with Love is Blind, I can hop on other episodes. So I will kind of update you on that, or other shows, I should say, update you on that once we kind of see what's going on. I think we're probably going down 2 episodes in the next batch for Love is Blind. So, but yeah, I think that's it on top of the episode. Actually, sorry, one more announcement, and then we will hop into the episode. Next week, there might be a little bit of a delay with episodes. I do have a medical procedure I have to do, so there might be a little bit of a delay with episodes for that realm over there. For next week, I will do my best to get you an episode Wednesday morning, but there will definitely not be an episode Thursday, and chances are there may not be an episode for Friday, or if there is, it'll be the later drop for episodes. So, which I usually drop episodes 11 a.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Eastern. So there might be an episode for 7 p.m. Eastern on Friday, but there will definitely be no episode on Thursday, because that's when I'm doing a medical procedure. But we will catch up, not to worry. But yeah, I think that's it. Let's get into the episode. So, Love is Blind, Season 8, Episode 5. Breaking up is hard to do. So we start off here with, I think this is the drama with Molly, David, Lauren. And then one of them, I don't know who it is, says that they feel confident about this person, whoever the person is, I can't remember, probably Dave said to Lauren, and she says, well, either you're playing a big game to like both of us, or she's interpreting things differently. He says, me and Molly are similar. And he says, I really don't like that she said anything or is acting a certain way that was like make her feel uncomfortable. But he says, I don't know if you're talking to other people, and it's like, but why does that matter? I think she's made it pretty freaking clear, honestly, to this point, that she, even if she was talking to other people, she's all in on you. She's waiting for the validation that she is not getting. And I just don't understand what one has to do with the other. Because it kind of shows that, okay, well, you're leaving your options open because you may think that she's talking to other people. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I just, I don't know. I don't know. Um, oh yes, and this as a thing too, I will be doing my predictions at the end of the episode 6 though. We do it at the end of episode 6. So, or maybe not quite the end of episode 6. Obviously, if you watch the episode, you might know why I'm saying maybe a little before the end of episode 6, but that's coming. So, anyways, back to this. And she's like, okay, but all the times, like I was saying, like, cancel your dates, like, isn't that like enough of a sign that I'm kind of in on you? And he's like, well, I thought you were joking. I also thought you two were joking, like, kind of, not really fully, but you know what I mean? But it's like, that was here's your sign. Like, that's your sign, sir, that she is at least in on you. And he says, I never told her she was my number one choice. Am I incorrect? Didn't he kind of say, oh, maybe he didn't. Am I just having like issues remembering myself? But I thought he did, but maybe he didn't. And maybe she is interpreting that she's his number one off of what I don't know. But you're definitely saying something to her for her to think that she is your number one. Whether you're not saying she's my number one, you're at least making her think based on something you're saying to her, you know? He says, based on how I feel about you, um, I think that's what he says. Anyways, um, he then says, my, I think that's my heart is throbbing, or yeah, he said my heart is throbbing. He's like, I'm going through it. I am so sorry you're going through it. Jesus, like you're the one in the driver's seat here, you know? And I understand like there's a difficult choice to make. You're into both of them, fine. They both may fit this mold for you. But it's just I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, we'll get to it later. And I have things I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna have to wait a little bit before I say it. All right, so back in the quarters, Molly is like, she has been in there for an hour and a half. Like, let's not forget, because we talked about this in the last episode, Molly is under the impression that he is breaking up with Lauren. And that really should only take maybe half an hour or so, right? If you just get right into it. So the fact that she's in there for an hour and a half obviously is making Molly think like how long do the breakups happen, you know? And Lauren goes back in there and I can't remember who was, oh, Madison. Madison says to her, like, hey, like I heard that he was actually ending things with you. And Lauren's like, well shit, I didn't get that memo. And I think like she's starting to question like she's hearing one thing or at least interpreting things in her way, and then he's telling me something else, like, it's not making any sense. And, like, how confusing to have him say one thing to you on your date, come back in, and then have Madison tell you something that she's hearing from Molly that she interpreted from him. Because that's the thing. Here's what I'm saying that I feel like I'm going crazy. He definitely made it seem as if he was going to end things with Lauren. I was under the impression that's what he was going to do and then didn't. And I do have a theory, but I'm gonna have to wait until I do the predictions. So Madison is like, I think he's playing both of you guys. And I don't even know if it's so much about playing them, because I don't think he has ill will or ill intention. I don't think he's playing them necessarily, like, because I feel like playing someone is or playing two different people is very intentional. Kind of like what's his face from last season. He was playing, I can't remember. I never remember names. Once you're gone in my life, that's it. It's like the guy who was he like the art dealer? He think he was an art dealer or something like that. And he had his two. One of them was Hannah. He was intentionally playing both of them. I don't think David is really intentionally trying to play both of them. I do think he's having this inner battle between what he wants and what he thinks is acceptable, which kind of will go to my thoughts when I do the projection. So we'll wait on that in a minute. So we're with Devin and Brittany. This is gonna be quick, y'all. She says, I think we're just not each other's person. Simple, to the point, done. And I wrote, like, this feels like the most amicable breakup I have ever seen on this show or any show, really. But yeah, that's it. It's done. On to the next. So he's now with Virginia, and she says that I don't know if she said it, or no, she did say it. She's named after her grandma, and she gifts him with her grandma's wedding ring, and he gives her a cutting board, y'all. But don't worry, it's a cute cutting board. It has some like words in the back or whatever. Like it's a fancy cutting board that maybe you really don't use to cut anything. And he also gives her a necklace with his initials on it as well. Cool. On to the next. Now we got Sarah and Ben. She feels like she met her twin flame. Listen, y'all. Just like out here saying, oh, I'm like Bonnie and Clyde. They died. Okay. In a blaze of glory, quote unquote. They were criminals. That's not something to aspire to be. Or when you say, oh, it's like Romeo and Juliet. They also died. And Juliet was 13. Okay. That's nothing to aspire to. So now, just like this, when you say, I think I found my twin flame, that's a cult. That's become a cult. And that's nothing to aspire to. So, can we just say, I think I found my person? Even if you say, I feel like I found my other half, that runs to Greek mythology. I think twin flame, I know, also is a part of some, it's Greek mythology, but I think it's Greek mythology. I get it. I know. But with where we're at with the term twin flame, not about it. So, yeah, but this is how she feels. She feels like she found her twin flame. But she says it feels like this is it. But she still wants to talk to him about deeper things. So, yeah. Then we have Molly and Lauren talking in the quarters. And she says that she wants to be sure, or sorry, back up. Not Molly. That happened later. Sarah is talking to Lauren in the quarters. And she says that the biggest thing for her is that she wants to be sure that they align on social issues, or at least he's open to learning about social issues because that is important to her. And I think even if he's not like, I don't know if open to learning is the proper thing to say, but just open to reading up on things, educating himself on things, um, maybe taking more of a stance on things in the future because social issues are so important, especially in the climate that we're in. So it's just I do believe like I'm not gonna say like I like rest my hat or whatever on someone being huge in whether it's social issues or anything that I am passionate about. I'm not saying that necessarily, like it's not something that like I need you to have. I'm not even saying you need to, again, in Canadian politics, it's very different than American politics. It's not like it's this big thing in the same way for us. We can respect people's viewpoints and it won't necessarily create rifts. I would hope. Not in the same way. And I think it does in America, but I at least kind of want to know you have a stance, where you lie, and that they can somehow, if not be similar, can complement each other. These are things that are important. And if this because this is important to her, I do understand that she needs to have someone who can at least listen to her when she speaks on something that's important to her or is open to, being there beside her with anything that she wants to do or feels like she needs to do for whatever reason. I do get that. But I also feel just kind of going ahead a little bit. I don't I don't know. We'll get to it. Then she has another date with him and she says, I need some reassurance on like social issues. And she says, like, I know we're not necessarily opposing sides of things, but those things are important to her. And he says, I don't want you to think you have to teach me because it is my responsibility. Okay, that's progress, actually, because it isn't her responsibility, nor is it necessarily her place to say where he should be focusing on or whatever. That is his journey. And I think that's a journey that we all kind of go through because, again, we were all teenagers, young adults, where maybe we didn't really, or at least the majority of us, anyways, didn't really focus on those social issues because, not to say, I hate to use this terminology, but we just don't care or we don't pay attention to those things because those things don't affect me personally, right? And that's understandable. But I think in time and with growth and getting older and realizing that maybe something doesn't affect me personally, but maybe that something has affected someone I know, or it could affect me personally because for whatever the reason may be. So you kind of start to open yourself up to those things. I don't know exactly how old he is, but old enough, at least at the latest or earliest mid 20s or early 20s, late 20s. So he may be a little later in starting on things, but honestly, I feel like even me, I didn't really start focusing on those social issues, um, the things that I am passionate about, certain things with politics. I really don't think those things really became something I really focused on until I was probably in my late 20s. So it's this is his journey and he has to go through it. So him saying it's my responsibility, I think that's a very good sign. She says, well, I'm in. And then he gets down on one knee and he proposes. And she says, yes. And we're basically just gonna wait for the reveal and see how things go. And I wrote here, is that Jason Derulo playing in the back? That is Jason Derulo. Okay. So back into the quarters. They both announce that they're engaged. Yay. Moving on. So now we're with David in the quarters, and he says that Molly wasn't his number one. I don't know, man. I think at some point she maybe was. I don't know. Anyway, he said that Lauren was his number one, but him and Molly get along so well, which they do. He's getting emotional about his sister, and this is what I say. I Okay, actually, no, I can't say yet. We're gonna wait. Sorry, we're gonna wait. I know I'm teasing because I will say what I will say. Just hold on to the sister because that is going to lend into my prediction and what I'm gonna say. So later on. So Joey says, I get that she's your sister, but at the end of the day, it has to be about what you want. She will get used to it. Exactly. Like, I get, like, you're his sister and you care and you want the best for him, but also know your, maybe I'm being mean, maybe I'm just whatever, but also know your place. And again, I'm coming from a place where I am an older sister and I want what's best for my sibling. However, I'm going to give you my thoughts and my feelings on a certain thing, let you write that out, and let you come to that conclusion on your own. And I feel like that's how I would also potentially parent, like, unless I think you're in some sort of danger, that's different. But like, we all need to learn from mistakes, grow from mistakes if you think it's a mistake, and let us live life because I know how it feels to not allow a person to go through those trials and tribulations of life, of being in relationships. So I just wouldn't go in the same way. You gotta let him do what he needs to do for himself. It's detrimental when you have these outside forces kind of really putting their 2 cents in things, like when it comes to stuff like this. Because that's where mistakes are made. Anyway, we see Lauren now talking about the whole situation with David. Um, Molly is confused as to why he hasn't broken it off. Sorry, I'm again incorrect. The conversation hasn't happened yet. Jeez, guys, I'm so sorry. Okay, we see Lauren talking about Molly waiting for her to be dumped, basically, by David, and then we see Molly kind of being confused as to why he hasn't broken it off with Lauren yet. And the thing is, like, instead of you guys kind of talking about the other, maybe y'all need to have a conversation. You know what I mean? So Molly and David have their date, and he says, I've been a mess. He feels like he says, I think he doesn't know what to do. Um, and she says to him, but you said that you were going to end it with her. I mean, I don't know, man. Did he? Like, am I crazy? Do I need to go back and listen to the last episode, go through my notes? Because, like, don't, I feel like that, okay, it kind of goes to show if he didn't actually say it, but I'm kind of in this camp of I thought he was going to as well, means he said something. Because that's why I'm so confused because I'm like, didn't he say something? Or am I just interpreting this incorrect as well? Like, there's just something ain't right with any of this. Um, he says, well, no, but, he says, like, I go into my day with Lauren and I get confused. Well, again, like, if, okay, if you have your date with Molly and you say that she is your quote unquote number one and you're going to quote unquote end it with Lauren, then why then when you go into a date with Lauren, you're getting confused? Because then that kind of means that, well, then you had no business potentially telling Molly, quote unquote, you're my number one and quote unquote, I'm going to end it with Lauren because you're clearly mentally and emotionally not in a place to make that decision. But you're making her think you are. Like, that's shitty. That's shitty. And he says, like, I'm just fucked. And she says, well, what is making you conflicted? And and she's like, I just want you to know that there's no pressure to pick me or make a decision or whatever. And she's like, do you need more time? And he's crying and he says, well, I feel like I have to follow through with Lauren. Now that's interesting wording. That I feel like I have to follow through with Lauren. Now, are you saying that because that's how you feel? Or are you saying that because she may be the acceptable choice? More on that in a bit when I talk about my predictions. Um, she asked, like, do you have a more emotional connection um with Lauren? And he says yes. She's like, okay, well then that is your person. Why are like why are you conflicted? Why not just follow through? That is your person. And he's like, oh, why are you being so cool? And she's like, well, because I'm not gonna sit here and beg a person to pick me when you're not going to. And I just want to be like she wants to be chosen by a person that actually she's like, am I, kind of freaking on the inside? Absolutely. But like I'm like I want to be chosen. And Molly says, so what now? And he's like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, I feel like you're kind of making a choice without actually saying it. Wait, what? Let me finish and then I'm going to put my thoughts in here. So she's like, you need to own it. And he's like, well, I thought I just did. So my thing is she's saying maybe I'm not seeing it the same way as she is, but she says that she kind of feels like he's not making a choice or he's making a choice without making a choice. And like he is kind of waiting for her to pull the plug. He just pulled the plug because he's not like point by point by point kind of saying to you, you know, I'm ending it here. I'm going to be with Lauren, whatever. He is doing this in such a way where he's not going to hurt you any more than he already is. But he literally said, and before all of this, I feel like I have to follow through with Lauren. I feel like I have a more emotional connection with her. What more did you need? He's telling you. He's telling you. Like, what more did you? I was very confused by this because I'm like, wait, what? Like, I was also very confused. I'm kind of with him, I'm like, but he just told you everything of how it's Lauren and not you. I don't know if this is based on her inexperience. I don't know if she needs a more clear cut breakup. But then again, she's never been broken up with because she's never been in a quote unquote actual relationship. So it's just like, what more did you need from? Because I feel like he gave you the answers. Like, you're grown. He shouldn't have to spoon feed you. Like, it's pretty clear. Anyways, Molly goes into the quarters at this point, and she was kind of bright to Lauren and says, like, can we talk? Like, beelines right to her and say, can we talk? And she says, I never meant to tell you anything. She's like, I actually really did think it was Sarah until she told me that it wasn't. So that's what I always thought. Like, I know, like, Lauren was kind of questioning whether or not she did that on purpose. I never thought she did. I really did think it was just she really thought it was Sarah. Um, and she's like, I started kind of realizing that it was you. because, things started to change a little bit. Obviously, she was distancing herself from her, but she said, like, "I'm sorry about that." And I think Lauren says, "Do you want to say," or no, so Molly says, like, she says, "I do want to say that promises were made." And this is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like they were not necessarily well, I guess, yeah, technically promises were, I feel like they were made. At the same time, he's saying they were. I'm like, am I nuts? And she says, um, they don't taste us the wrong way, but like I didn't know who was more delulu, is what Lauren says. You or me. But also says, um, he put us in this situation. It's not a fair situation to be put in. But Molly says, do what is best for you. And I love you. So that was sweet. Moving on from that. Now we have Lauren and Dave. And he says, I was crying. Why? Like, I feel like you're fishing for sympathy, my guy. You don't need to tell her that. That's your problem, not her problem. Am I mean? Anyway, so he says I was crying. He's like, I was terrified that you could walk out. And he said, I think I was afraid to be, afraid to be happy. And she says, I did talk to Molly. And I was told that Molly was kind of waiting for me to be broken up with. Did you make promises that you didn't end up keeping? And of course he says, no, I never did. I did not promise anything. But she's like, I feel like when I broke it off, or he says, sorry, when I broke it off with Molly, I felt like she was just being really cool. So that's really funny. In the moment with Molly, is kind of like, when he says to her, oh, why are you being so cool? He made it seem like it's a positive thing. Like you're not like reaming me out kind of thing. But to Lauren, when he's telling her about the breakup, he's making it seem like it's a negative thing. Like maybe she didn't care enough because she was being so cool. She didn't care enough. And it's like, you're changing the narrative, which is why I think Molly isn't Delulu, neither is Lauren. He's changing the narrative depending on who he is talking to. I don't know if I trust him. I didn't know if I trusted him before, to be totally honest with you. Anyway, he says that she tried to kind of flip it on to me, which I mean, again, generally speaking, well, yes, this is on you. What he's obviously referring to, though, is the whole, like, well now kind of comment that she made. And it's this, or comments that she made. And it's like, yeah, I hear that. And that's understandable. But you also need to remember that these women are together all the time. They're in a place together where they're talking to each other about you guys on the other side. And same with you. Don't you think that maybe they talk to each other and that she's going to see a side of her that you maybe didn't? And you're basically because this makes me think you're trying to make yourself look good while you're trying to make her look bad. And Lauren isn't seeing that. So when Lauren says, well, what she kind of saw was that she was hurt and how he said that promises were made. He's like, well, I never said she was my number one. I don't know, man. I feel like he did. Because you were my number one from day one. And I think, maybe. But then when I think he started connecting with Molly, that number one potentially changed over to her, or like, I don't know. Like, it's all really weird for me. Like, I feel like I'm missing something and he's not telling the truth. He says that I feel like I'm falling in love with you. You feel like you are. Okay. And he says, I am worried about my sister. again, there he is bringing up his sister again, which is why I'm kind of thinking like this is his motivation to make this decision that he's about to make, that is about his sister, not about him. And he says, I do not want her to freak out. Well, let's take a break from them for now. We have Daniel and Taylor, and they're exchanging some gifts. They talk insecurities for him. His height is an insecurity. He's 5'8". He's a quote unquote shirt king, which he's not a shirt king. He's slightly below average, like an inch or something like that. For her, that's the pressure to look a certain way. As women, we are expected to look a certain way. And she says she would feel guilty even eating a pizza, which is really sad. No one ever should feel guilty eating a pizza. Fuck society and their rules. You know what I mean? Then we kind of start talking about um whether they whether either of them posts on Instagram a lot, which I don't think I don't know if they do. Whatever. Now we got a reveal. And the reveal is between Sarah and Ben. She has this kind of like stone look on her face at first, but when he kind of runs to her, she smiles. They hug. Um, they kiss. He proposes again. The whole deal, the ring. She says he's cute, and he asks like, "Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me?" And she says, "Yeah, I do. Love you." And he says, "Well, let's elope." And he's like, screw waiting the 4 weeks. 'Cause God forbid they stand in front of the mirror, which is going to become a thing for them. And she's picturing the future. And they're picturing like, the pictures, the Christmas cards and whatever else. And they I noticed like they kissed a lot in comparison to anyone else on the season or even just anyone else on the show. Like they kiss a lot. um, but that's basically that. I will give my prediction at the end. So it's Valentine's Day, y'all. We got a date with Lauren and Dave. She looks cute with her little black crop top and pink jeans. And she looks very cute. And he says, I am so in love with you. And then he gets down on a knee and he proposes. And she says that she will marry him. And then she also ends up by saying, holy shit. We'll take a break from that for now. Mason has his 2 dates currently, because let's not forget, Madison and Meg are still in the picture here. They're back to back. So I also wrote here because we kind of see this random guy pop up. Who the fuck is Mo? We don't know a Mo. We have our core people here that we've been following. Who the fuck is Mo? I don't give a shit about Mo. Get Mo off my screen. Mo is nothing but just an extra. Okay? Anyway, Mason has his first date with Madison. And y'all, I'm not even kidding. When he said this, I'm like, I can't. Like, this, oh, this is why it ends up the way it ends up for him. And we'll get to it. He gives her a goddamn cream pie. He can go fuck himself. Like, this is ridiculous. But she's not even oh, it's a cream pie. Okay. I got something I have to say. Um, she says that I don't know if it's you, and like, she's like, I thought you would know already, because obviously, like, Alex would have gone in there being like, I got a girlfriend. But that's he did. He didn't say who. But she's like, "But I think this is not our story." And she's like, "I was able to get there faster with someone else." And yeah, I would I think he says it was unfair to you to say I was all in. Wait, what? So because she's breaking up with you, you're now gonna backpedal and say, I think it was unfair that I told you that I was all in. What? It's a choice. Not a choice I had to make, but it's a choice. And he's like, I shouldn't have said that when dating two people. And she says, well, if it shows you didn't mean it, you're just saying it to say it, right? And she's like, I went into my other date and I just knew. Like, you have to make a decision, and I made it for you. And that's how this is how the cookie fucking crumbles. And she's like, I will tell you that I spoke to Meg, and you tried to keep both things going. And in the process of trying to do that, you might have lost both of us. Who knows? We know. We know already. But maybe you could have been more, she's just like more sincere, I think. But that is neither here nor there for me. I don't give a shit. But maybe we can be friends. Because of death. Maybe we can be friends. Why can't we be friends? You know what I mean? She's like, okay, well, I'm not going to eat this breakfast, he says. So he goes back into the quarters and he is just obviously upsetting these down. And the person who hugs him immediately, though, is Alex. And they talk and he says, like, listen, I said something that didn't feel right. This is what Mason is saying. He's like, you say this now because she broke it off with you. Like, what? He says that he is worrying because he does not, in case he doesn't get a chance to talk to Meg, or maybe it's too late, or like whatever, right? So Madison then tells the girls that she said, so the girls like, he's indecisive. He could have coughed both things with two women here. But Meg is like, oh no, don't say that. So what, are you gonna stick with him after all of this? Because again, he backpedals as soon as someone tells him, oh, it ain't it. So, like, you're just gonna backpedal, I guess, your way through this? I don't know. But she does not know what she's going to do yet. And Virginia tells her, think about it. Ego has been a big thing in these pods. And honestly, I think there ain't nothing more fragile than a male ego. And Mason proved it when Madison broke it off with him. Like, it's ridiculous. He's ridiculous. The Mason and Meg have their date, and he tells her that I validated Madison and it felt wrong. When did it feel wrong? Did it feel wrong in the moment, or did it feel wrong after she dumped you? I go for the latter, for 400, Alex. Like, he says, I definitely validated the wrong person. And honestly, I would have had and I think even maybe Meg would have had more respect for him if he just said, yeah, I validated this person. I thought maybe she was going to be it. Yeah, I could still have my feelings for you. I wasn't necessarily all in on, like, fully on that, or, I was still figuring out things. Maybe I shouldn't have said it. It's better than just point blank period saying, yeah, I validated the wrong person, because it still makes it seem like you are curating your answers to fit where you're currently at in the process and who you're currently at within this process. So it doesn't help. Um, Meg says, but did you feel confused now? Because, like, she's with Alex. And I don't know if he knew. Did he know at this point? Did my, um, or maybe he did. I don't know. I don't know if he knew. But anyways, he says that he says like with Meg, he was out of his seat with their conversation, which yes, he was, but I still think the problem with Mason is maybe Meg was the right choice for him. I don't know. But because he was so fixated on Madison because he probably, like I said, thought she was hot. And he's fixated on that, which again, this is not the reason for being on the show. You're not picking someone because you think they may be hot or you may have this sexual connection with them, which is fine, great. But the thing that is more important is the emotional because the sexual chemistry and all that or physical in general, can be really created out of the emotional connection, can be established and fine tuned through the emotional connection. And I didn't quite see that with him and Madison. But at the end of the day, sir, you still validated her, whether you thought it was wrong or not. Which I do believe in the moment he knew what he was doing and he was content with it. So he says, like, you were my first date. I gave you a 10. Out of what? So wait, you're like 10 out of 10? 10 meaning great? She's a dime? What? I don't know. It's just the point scale for me is just like, ooh. Like, I don't know if I like that. He says, no other girl got a 10. Thanks? Thank you. Like, thank you, kind sir. Like, what are you talking about? And he says, like, you were always my number one. And that's where we end episode 5. So we have episode 6 coming. I promise it's still going to be in this episode. This episode 5 was a little longer, but that is okay. So we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we will finish up this episode and do episode 6. And I am back. So let's do episode 6, which is going to be the final episode for this episode. And this one is titled, Do I Know You? So, oh, that's fitting. So, this, so we left off with Mason and Meg. So he kind of said like someone said it wasn't just to be, yesterday just to be fair. He says, right, but I knew she was the wrong answer. And Meg says, it's not crazy to be in more than one connection, especially with, the name of the game, right? But she said, but I wasn't being affirmed by you. She's like, I would say that I have a crush on you. I would say that I'll miss you, but like, you didn't reciprocate. And she's like, I would hear your voice and I would get excited. And he says, like, I really regret what I said to Madison. And she's like, I love hearing it. But now I will never have the opportunity to know, like, if I would have been picked because I wasn't picked. Like, I've now been picked by default. And again, I think it would have been different if she felt affirmed by him. And this is how it turned out. I think things would have been a different outcome for them. But unfortunately, he didn't do that and he did that for Madison. And she's like, I can't get past that. And she says at this point, or he says, okay, so, okay, she says to him, like, she doesn't feel she can get past it. So obviously this was her way of saying, done so. And I feel like at this point is when he's finally being a little more honest with Meg, because he says, like, I was just at a different level with someone else, which means Madison was your person. Like, maybe I'm interpreting this incorrect, but that's what it feels like. So he says, this is going to be the biggest regret of my life. He says, I'm sorry. And she says, don't be. She's like, I just need something different. And we will both get, things in life and the right people. So that's that. That's the end of Mason and Meg. So now we have Taylor and Daniel. He writes her this cute letter. Apparently, they were actually doing a writing thing with each other. Maths, am I right? He says that he wants to make her happy, have her back, be her pod mate for life. And she wrote a letter too. She didn't finish the letter. And he says, I have enjoyed being your boyfriend for 2 days. But now he's ready to be her fiance. So then he gets down on a knee and he proposes. And she says, yes. Now we got some Jason Mraz. I'm yours. Well, all I ever think about every time I hear that song play is my biology teacher. Because again, at the time that the song came out, it was popular and whatever. Well, it was popular when I was in elementary, I should say. It's an old song. But my biology teacher in grade 12 would play this song for whatever reason. Every time I hear that song, I just think about my biology class in grade 12. The differences of what people think about when they hear a song. So that's that. So we have another couple there. We'll talk about the reveal. We'll talk about predictions at the end. So now we have a reveal with Lauren and Dave. They hug right away. They kiss right away. He proposes again, and we know because of the ring. She's shaking, and there's more kissing, and he tells her that she is beautiful, which I think is the only reason why I wrote this down is because of him saying, oh, I have this, you know, vain way of thinking, um, or shallow way of thinking about women. And so that's why I wrote it down. But he says, I can picture you as a teacher. And she's like, I don't know what that means, but okay. Now we have Devin in Virginia. He wrote her a letter as well. And he says that he promises to always make her feel valued. Um, he says the past few years have felt dim. He's like, I got great people, family, friends, but he just felt lonely and dim and dark. And he's like, you are the light in the darkness, which I thought was sweet. And he says, I love you. Will you marry me? And she says, yes, I will. And he says, what? You took so long because she was like a long pause there, which they do for dramatic effect. But it's like, damn it, it took too long. But anyways, we have another couple. We'll talk about predictions at the end. Now we have Madison and Alex. So this is the drama part of things. So, and I'm gonna put my thoughts and feelings out here. But I'm gonna preface, I love Alex. I think he's a great guy. But yikes. So they exchange some gifts. And he says, while she kind of slides under her blanket, that his biggest concern with her is the avoidance. Now, they have talked about this. So why are we still continuously beating a dead horse? Like, I don't know what he wants from her because she's not going to change her attachment style right away. It's a process. It's a give and take. It's a learning curve for her. You gotta give her time and patience to adjust. Come to some sort of middle ground on it. Constantly talking about it in this perspective when there is no way to know how this is going to turn out in terms of communication styles is just not productive. you have the month to figure it out. If you don't like the way she communicates, if you don't think you guys are communicating productively, then you don't have to marry her. But, like, I just don't I don't know what he wants from her. So she's like, "Well, I'm here, aren't I?" Well, damn straight. She's gone through some shit. And she is still here, and there was a moment where it was a little uncertain, with Alex, but she still stuck through with it with him. And that's a step in the right direction, I would think. So it's just like you gotta give her a chance to either, like, fulfill the need you have when it comes to communication and not feeling like you're being abandoned, or you give her the chance to fail at it. Either way, like, you gotta give her the chance, and he just isn't. So he says, "I think you are a good girlfriend." Then we start talking about Mason, which, why? And again, this is something he brought up. I don't know why we're talking. Here's the thing. I'm not saying he necessarily is saying he has good communication skills, but the way he's talking to her kind of comes across as, I have the superior communication style. Yet you're talking about a man she ended things with for her own purposes and reasons. And, like, why? And then all he does is dig himself a little deeper. So let's get to it. So he asks her, because again, let's not forget, Mason told the men that she talked to Meg. So he says that, did you talk to his other connection? Kind of feels like accusatory. Like, everyone deserves to have happiness, so why would you talk to her, you sabotaging bitch, kind of situation? And he says, like, did you tell him you were committed to him? Now, where is this coming from? Because Mason never said that she said that. And she never said that she said that either. So I was a little confused by this line of questioning, because I'm like, but no one said that she said that. We're saying he did. He's saying he did. She's saying he did. No one's saying she did. So, and she didn't. So, like, I just don't understand, like, how, like, I just don't understand. At least verbally didn't say, like, maybe her actions and whatever might have said differently, but verbally anyway, she's not saying she was committed to him. So, like, I don't understand. So he says, I appreciate his perspective and yours. So don't forget that. What perspective? Because at the end of the day, to me, I was actually in this moment. They're not married, but in this moment, I'm thinking to myself, okay, as crazy as Stacy was last week's episode, she was right in saying, pick me. I'm your wife. Pick my side. It's true. No matter how Mason thinks he interpreted something, Madison is saying, this is how she feels. This is how she interpreted things. This is her perspective. So for him to really and truly invalidate her feelings, it doesn't bode well for a person who's talking about marrying her potentially. And again, is saying, your communication style sucks and mine's superior. Yet you're invalidating her. You're talking about the man she's no longer with. You're doing all those things, or basically caring more about him and how he feels more than caring about her and how she feels. And she's the person you claim or potentially want to have a life with. Your friends are important, I understand that, but here's what I'll say. At the end of the day, the most important person in my life it's the person I'm sharing life with, not my friends. Rude awakening, and I'm sorry to say it, but when you're potentially talking about marriage, and being married or starting a family with the person or whatever, that is the person who's most important in your life, unless he's an asshole, abusive, potentially, maybe he cheated, I don't know, and your friend has proof or something. There are exceptions to every rule, but at the end of the day, all of that aside, the most important person in your life is the person you're potentially going to share life with. Not a person you literally just met. Well, again, he just met Madison 10 days ago. Not just a person that he just met while doing this process and who you are not going to potentially have a life with and spend your life with. So it's just, I didn't like this. I like him. I think he's a good soul, but I just didn't like this. So she says, well, I was hurt by him. And she's like, I don't want to hear how you are validating him. She's like, I just want some understanding. And honestly, she's not asking for a lot. I really don't think she is. And she says, I really don't want to talk about this or hear about it anymore. She just wants to move on, which again should be allowed. Like, I don't know why we're talking about him still. So he continues, and she basically has to say, no, enough. Like, I don't want to hear it anymore. So he tries to change the subject, but just makes no sense because you've already created a funk in the room. He literally says, like, okay, so 20 years from now, where do you see yourself, or whatever the hell he says? And she says, I'm sorry, but like, I can't, she really can't switch gears to talk about the future when she feels like she can't even picture herself in the future, at least with him. So she starts tapping her nails on her, like, on I think the goblet, which makes him a little nervous. Like, she's constantly tapping on the goblet and she's tapping on the notebook, and he can hear her tapping, and he can tell it's a nervous reaction or is it an anxiety reaction, which is making him feel a certain way. And I think he probably, if he's smart, knows, oh shit. So she really, with the tapping, she's actively shutting down. And he is creating the one thing he's afraid of in the relationship. But really, this could have been avoided. This didn't have to happen. So he says, like, what if we go on this trip? And she says, it's really hard to think about that with you right now when I feel like you might not be my person. And she's like, um, I feel a hesitancy from you, which is true. He has been hesitant since he found out she is the type to run from situations. And he says that his biggest issue is the communication. And she says, well, we are going to have our issues. They can't be avoided. And it's not about those things, but though it's about how you work at it. And he's like, well, can you assure me that you can communicate effectively? Again, what do you want from her more than what she's about to say here? She says, I can't promise that I will try, but I can't promise that it's going to be enough for you. Ding, ding, ding. That's exactly it. You're asking her to potentially, confirm something that she doesn't have the power to confirm. And I thought that was actually really good of her and mature of her to be like, it just might not be enough for you. Which is going to basically put them in a place of failure before they even get a chance to start. And he says, I do not think we're in a place for an engagement. You think? And um, she says, is that your final answer? And he's like, I think so. And that's that. Then we get Miley singing, I came like a wrecking ball. This this came in like a wrecking ball. I was not expecting this. I thought for sure, because I was literally, when they started this section here, I'm like, oh come on, now we're gonna get six. When I wanted six with Leo, that's his name. When I wanted six with Leo and Brittany, that was her name. Leo and Brittany. I'm like, I wanted six couples there, and we didn't get that. So now we're gonna get six couples with Madison and and Alex, and I'm just like, oh, never mind. So that's that. So we have a reveal now with Devin and Virginia. They hug and he proposes. And y'all, she's really shy. Like, she's really shy. And not to mention, not only that, I'm actually really bored of their reveal. And you'll kind of see, because I had to start episode 7, haven't finished it yet, but I'm really bored of them. I'll wait and talk about it there, but she says, I knew you was cute. Or she says that he was cute when they were walking back to the other side, so, or walking her to her side. So then we then have our last reveal with Taylor and Daniel, and she says that if he is really like shorter than me, it might be a little awkward at first, and I'm like, eek. But then she also says that, that whatever, we'll get through it. So the doors open, they hug. Should we shake hands? And they shake hands. And they do kiss, and he gives her the ring. He's like, I'm gonna go down on a knee. He's like, I am going down on a knee again, but I'm not asking you again because I don't want to give you the option to run. He's like, no, you need to ask me again because that's what the producers want you to do. So, they're adorable. And he is wearing her socks. I don't remember the sock situation, but he's wearing her socks. She said that she stuffed her socks or his socks in her bra. So she says that he is a little shorter than what she is used to, but she says, and he's used to not wear any high heels, so it's fine. So I'm going to take a pause here for a second. I'm going to do my predictions, and then we'll finish up the episode because I have to say, all of my predictions were before this point or after this point. So let's get to it. So Joey and Monica, I wrote yes because I think they're both very similar personalities. I think it could definitely work for them. So I said yes. Sarah and Ben, I said maybe for the mere purposes of social issues. If he does not get on board to some extent with her passion and with the importance of social issues for her in her life, they may say yes at the altar, but it's not going to work long term. So that's my answer for them. Lauren and Dave, I wrote yes, question mark. Here's why I wrote that. I personally think Dave picked Lauren because Lauren is the acceptable woman for his sister. Because I think if he showed up to introduce Molly to his sister, it would have been an absolute shit show. And he knows that. So he's picking the safer option. Now, we all know, I said from the beginning, Lauren and Alex were the two people for me that I wanted happiness for. But do I think he picked the right person? Right now, at this point, I am unclear. I feel, at least at the point of 1 to 6, no. I think his person was Molly, but he had to pick the safer bet because of his sister, which is an issue. Now, we do have episode 7, 8, and 9. Like I said, I haven't just started, I'm almost done episode 7. I have to kind of get through and see where that goes, but it's just, I don't know. Then we have Taylor and Daniel. I wrote yes at this point, but trust me, when we get to the next scene, I'm like, oh shit, was I too fast? Was I too fast with my predictions? I still say yes, despite, I'll leave it at that. I think it is possible that these two could say yes to each other. Then Virginia and Devin, I wrote no. For the reasons, because of these reasons, I feel like they know nothing about each other. Because here's the thing, he put his shit out there about his drug addiction or his painkiller addiction. Well, still drug addiction. She didn't say shit. I feel like there's things that she hasn't said, things that she's holding back on. I don't know why. I feel like they don't know each other. I'm maybe seeing this chemistry between them, but again, it feels lackluster for me. I find them very, very boring. I just don't see, I mean, listen, we always have like the done deal couple. I think this season it's Joey and Monica. Lauren, Virginia and Devin, I don't remember there ever being a couple in any of these previous seasons where the couple doesn't have something to give us. Honestly, this is what I predict with them. I think they're the couple to fill in the gap because Alex and Madison aren't here or Mason and Meg aren't here. Because I can tell you right now, if they were, they wouldn't be here. And I'm going to say it, sorry, I'm putting it out there. We always have to have some kind of color in the group, a couple of color or whatever it is, or at least a person of color, whether they're in an interracial relationship. This is what I think this is. I just don't get it. I don't know why they're here. I don't get it. But that's my predictions for whether or not I think they're going to get married. Of course, we will do predictions of if I'm still saying that later on before the weddings and who's going to say what. We always do that. I think the episode before the weddings is usually when I do it. So that's where I'm at. Okay, we're not done the episode, guys. We still have a little more. 24 hours later, so 24 hours after the reveal between Taylor and Daniel, we're in the women's hotel and we see Taylor. She's crying and she drops this bomb. She says, Daniel felt familiar to me. Was it maybe because I was, picturing him in my head or whatever? But when the doors opened, I thought that this was not the first time that I had seen him. And she starts explaining to us that 2 months prior to coming on the show or doing the process, that a man followed her on Instagram. And she suspects that this man was Daniel. And the reason she suspects this man was Daniel is because she remembers that there was one picture of this man by a Christmas tree with like his legs up or one leg up or crossed, I should say. She says she didn't follow him, but of course, that doesn't mean anything. If she's doesn't have a private profile, they can still see things. And she says, I have, particular things on my bio. She says, I have on there that I'm a registered nurse. I have on there that I love Taco Bell, that family and friends are important to me. Like she has all these things on her bio that she's suspecting or she's trying to put out there that he could have studied, figured out, and would have matched these two together. Like basically, she's trying to insinuate that there is kind of like this, like Uche and what's her face, can't remember her name, and I don't care. that type of situation. And she's like, I have also a Christmas highlight on her Instagram showing basically how much she loves Christmas. So that's another thing for her of like, well, he must know all of these things. She's like, there's so much of me there. And she says, I grew to love him in the pods, but I cannot ignore the gut feelings. So then we see her meeting up with him at the hotel, and she says, I didn't sleep last night. She's like, I thought you looked familiar to me. I'm pretty confident that you followed me on Instagram. And she's like, I think this happened not long before coming here. And he said adamantly, I don't follow you. And she says, well, you followed and then unfollowed me. So she's basically making it seem like he followed her because he's into her. He's on the show. He somehow figured out she's on the show. And then he unfollowed her for production purposes, I guess. And then she asks about the picture, the fireplace, or not the fireplace, sorry, I had to say fireplace, Christmas tree picture. And he says, no, but like I do have one in front of a fireplace. But like there's no drink in my hand because she also mentioned that there was a drink in his hand. And he says, I have more pictures, but not in front of a Christmas tree, which is interesting to me only because you claim you love Christmas so much and you've done all of these goddamn Christmas cards and shit, but you've never done one in front of the most iconic, like, visual of Christmas, and that is a fucking Christmas tree. No, sir, you're lying. So she says, I hope you can understand how this looks. And she also says that we had mutual friends in common. This person, anyways, had mutual friends in common. And that's basically where episode 6 ends. And this is where my episode ends. So here's what I think. I personally think he's lying. I do have more I will say, but I'm going to have to save it until episode 7. But I do think that he's lying. I think there is potential that he did. Now, do I think he knew she was coming on Love is Blind? Unless she announced that on her social media. No, I don't think so. I think it could have been a coincidence. But I just don't. I think the biggest thing for me is, and also what's to come in episode 7, I personally think that it's impossible for me to believe that a person who loves Christmas as much as this man does, or claims he does, I mean, y'all, spoiler alert, he's packs a stocking in his suitcase. Like, it's just impossible for me to believe that you don't have a picture in front of a Christmas tree. It's just, what are the odds? I don't know. Now, I know we do have another person on here who I think also loves Christmas. I think that's Ben, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. This is something doesn't feel right with it. Now, does it matter? Not necessarily, but it's just like, I don't know. Anyways, that is it for this episode. That is it for episode 6 of Love is Blind. So, as mentioned, we are going to be doing 7 to 9 in one episode. So, it's going to take me a little bit to get that done, but it'll be getting done. But, yeah, that is it for this episode. So, if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there. And you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, dot podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.